Welcome back. As Eskom battles rolling blackouts, Finance Minister Godongwana has exempted the power utility from disclosing irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Now, this exemption, however, doesn't comply with the Public Finance Management Act. Well, that decision has also drawn mixed reaction from South Africans. And Outer CEO Wayne Duvernay joins us now to give us his perspective on this particular decision by the Finance Minister. Wayne, thank you so much for making time for us, and good morning to you. Your reactions to this decision by Treasury and Minister Godongwana?
Yeah, look, it's unacceptable, quite frankly. We should be ensuring that the minister is putting Eskom under pressure to be far more transparent, and instead granting them this leeway or these exemptions doesn't do any good for the trust deficit between the public and government. But secondly, financial statements are legal statements, and if there are transgressions of this nature that aren't reported on, then there are issues that allow the accounting officers to get away with murder, so to speak. I mean, this is really important for the country to see exactly what's happening in these areas, because it spells out and it clearly paints the picture of financial hygiene or not. If you remove this requirement, how does the Auditor General now audit? They can only give an unqualified audit because everything that speaks to the material irregularities and or wasteful expenditure is not going to be reported on. So this is not good for civil society, and it's not good for transparency, and it's not good for accountability either.
Now, I think a lot of South Africans who have criticized the minister's decision are asking the simple question, why? Why this decision? How does it benefit Eskom? And why would the minister make this decision, especially at the back of what former Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter had to say about the irregularities and the corruption that has been taking place in Eskom, according to, of course, what he witnessed?
Yeah, good question. Why? Why now? And why not? If the Eskom board or the chairperson is asking for this leniency because they don't have the processes or the ability to report accurately on these matters, well, that's no excuse, and certainly not for 3 years. If I was the minister, I'd be telling Eskom, you've got 6 months, get your house in order and report on this stuff. Why? Because it's very important. It's important for the ratings agencies. It's not as if you can say, well, now that you don't have to report on it, you're going to get a clean bill of health. They are not that silly. They're not going to be fooled by these type of statements. In fact, even prior to this, I don't think there would have been anybody giving Eskom loans anyway. But what we need is transparency. We don't need to have this obfuscation of your responsibilities by granting these exemptions. He should have really just told them to get their act in order and do so in a matter of a few months. Instead, he's granted them 3 years of not having to report on matters that are serious to civil society, serious for this government.
Yeah, I mean, when in its statements, the Treasury mentioned that this action is not necessarily unprecedented. It says Transnet has had a similar exemption. I just wonder if that's even a good enough reason to exempt Eskom in this regard.
No, it's not a good enough reason at all. And we see what happened then when they did that. Transnet gets an unqualified audit. Well, Transnet is in a mess. It's gone backwards since then. So this is no reason to do so just because you've done it before. And when they did so in Transnet wasn't in the news and wasn't in the dire situation that Eskom is now right now. So that's not an excuse. I think government should be going the other way and not granting more of these types of exemptions, because this is now precedent setting. What happens when the municipalities now come to Treasury and say, we would also like the same exemptions, please? This really just now puts so much smoke around the irregularities and the wasteful expenditure. We have to have that information. All oversight entities, including the Auditor General, have to be able to report on that. This is really, it's like lowering the exam marks and saying, well, we'll give you a 20% pass in maths if you can't pass it at 50%. This is the problem with this country in so many respects. You just lower the bar. It's totally unacceptable.
Yeah. What does it mean for corruption? What does it mean when it comes to, dealing with corruption? We know the Zondo Commission made recommendations with regards to how corruption needs to be dealt with, the findings they found in Eskom, amongst other state-owned entities, in terms of the bar on how South Africa deals with corruption. What does this decision mean?
Well, it makes matters worse. Now, obviously, he did say it doesn't exempt them from reporting on irregularities relating to corruption. But defining corruption and proving the corruption is something they might not go down that road. So it'll just be put in as an irregular expenditure or fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Remember the millions of rands that were spent on breakfast for the New Age newspapers. I mean, that was wasteful expenditure. That doesn't have to be reported on now. So it opens the door for corruption on a grand scale, quite frankly. It doesn't bode well for this country. It doesn't bode well for trust in government. And we believe the minister should reverse this decision. And hopefully, I'm hoping that there are some financial lending houses that have some clauses in their agreements that might trigger early recall on these loans that they've given. If that is the case, if there are those clauses in those agreements, then maybe they should exercise some civil courage and tell Eskom, not on our watch, not while we have loans and bonds with you, you need to withdraw this, otherwise we're going to want our funds back. And maybe that will get Eskom or the Treasury to think again.
I'm glad you raised this, Wayne, because I understand that this was more of an attempt to restore Eskom's balance sheet, of course, through debt relief, as well as enabling the utility to borrow again to invest in new transmission infrastructure. But even though the details are not tabled necessarily in black and white on the financial statements, but I mean, it's information that is already out in the public domain. Will this still be effective? Will it still be effective in helping with Eskom's balance sheet? Or like you say, borrowers still will say, not in our name, will not allow this to happen, until we, I suppose, do everything by the book, even if it means writing the finer details of every fruitless expenditure on those financial statements.
Exactly. And look, I mean, prior to this announcement, I don't know of any, or don't think any lending houses would have been giving Eskom money anyway, which is why Treasury is bailing them out. But that said, it's not good. It's not right. It doesn't change things. You can't hide the facts. You shouldn't be, not in matters of statutory reporting. And that's what these financial statements are. This is the statutory stuff. It doesn't help for the minister to say, no, but we still want them to report it in their integrated reports. The integrated reports are not statutory, and the Auditor General doesn't go and look at and audit integrated reports. They audit the financial statements. So it really is not good, and the lending houses and the ratings agencies are not going to be fooled by this, and they're not going to like it.
We'll leave it there, and I appreciate you speaking to me about this. Artist CEO Wayne Duvenage, thank you so much for your time.